Great. So today on Talk with Quinn-Ty, we are talking about the Black Lives Matter movement, and Deborah has joined me today just to have a bit of a word about it. She's confident enough on the subject to express her opinion. Sorry. So we're just going to be going through that, and I'm going to be asking her a few questions. This is mainly to do with education and partly entertainment. What we are talking about is very real, going on in the real world, and we just want to address it as it's the situation in the world right now. Thank you. Deborah, you can introduce yourself if you like. Who are you? What do you do?
Okay, well, sorry. Do you want to go? Okay. Well, my name's Deborah Oiwoy. I'm 18 years old. I currently go to I'm at sixth form in Sandbach. I'm waiting to go to university in September to do law and politics, hopefully. And yeah, that's just me.
Yeah. Nice and simple.
Yeah.
Great. The first point I really wanted to go into in the BLM movement, because that's really what it is. It's a movement. We know that the movement is happening, to put it plain and simply. Stuff is happening, stuff is changing, and the protests that people are doing is very little, and it's still very early stages, but stuff is happening. We saw the officers being charged. We saw the FBI now investigating the Breonna Taylor.
Yeah.
So we are making change, but I really want to ask you, first of all, what is it? What is Black Lives Matter?
Well, the movement was... Oh, sorry. The movement, it started in July 2013, just after Trayvon Martin was murdered by George Zimmerman, an officer. Well, even though it started in 2013, the issue of police brutality has been an issue for centuries now. Ever since, let's say, the 13th Amendment, when slavery was abolished, the officers and the founding fathers of America had a sort of vendetta against, let's say, African Americans due to them being sort of freed from slavery. It's never really been, since that point, it's never really been an issue of sort of keeping them under reins. It's about an issue of oppressing them, and that can be seen in sort of law enforcement, with the amendments within the Constitution, and how the police sort of react towards Black men and women as opposed to their white counterparts. And I think this whole movement is a reaction towards that and against that, because it's a movement to sort of show the world that Black lives matter as well. And people always say, oh well, all lives matter. That's always been the case. That's never really been disputed. However, the issue is now that Black lives matter as well, and I think people get that very confused, especially with the whole BLM movement, which was started because of a murder of another unarmed man again.
Perfect. Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Like you said before, Black Lives Matter as well. We're not just saying only Black Lives Matter, but right now, by the way, I'm coming from a standpoint where I'm half Caribbean. My mum is from St. Kitts and my dad's from Ireland. Very fair-skinned, but I was raised in the Caribbean household. So I've seen both sides of it. But when I say we as a community, not only Black people, we are a community who want change. You can be from any background, but when I say we, I'm saying if you're part of us, you're helping. You know, we are part of the BLM movement. So we want change, really. So what I wanted to go on about that is, why has it come about now? Why George Floyd? Why has it not been before then?
Well, I think it has been happening for quite a while now. Just that I think with this death now, because it was recorded and so heavily documented, it's hard not to make this movement even bigger than it was before. Because when that happened to George Floyd, I think it was the way it was done. The way that he was killed was basically a public lynching, which, as we know, is like a historical way to kill people of colour. And I think the fact that he was basically sort of put down, he was on the ground, obviously already in handcuffs, and there were 3 men on his back, and then obviously the officer that was on his neck. The way that he was killed was barbaric and inhumane, and people for the first time could actually see that. There was no denying that. There was no sort of twisting the story around, even though people are still saying that he was under, some sort of drug or whatever. We don't know that yet because we haven't really got the full sort of results from his autopsy. But I think the way it was done, and sort of his standing in his community before he died, he was also an activist for young young males that were sort of disadvantaged in society as well. I think that played a key role in it being such a big movement and a trend, if you say that as well, because I think, especially now, you can't deny it anymore. There's no more sort of like overplaying it or downplaying it. It's literally recorded, it's there, if I were to say, and you can't ignore this anymore. It's here. I think that's why now his death has sparked such an international conversation of race and racism as well.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, like you said before, the way that he was killed, it was degrading. He was on the floor, he was begging. It was very degrading. Like I said, it was a lynching. It was almost a public display. So there really is not much differentiation. As you said, as it was recorded, there is no room for argument. This is what happened. We have it on camera. Look at it. You know what I mean? And I think George Floyd started this whole process because it was an officer. We saw, I'm sure everybody watching this has seen a video of that young black man who was running in America and was shot in the chest with a shotgun. That made an impact, but that was an individual. It wasn't an officer. The fact that we see an officer in a uniform representing America on the neck of a black man, it's almost iconic, but not iconic. It's something that we can see that's very clear. You know, it's a symbol.
Yeah, I think it's all right. It was that death as well. It was almost the straw on the camel's back. Race has always been an issue, especially in American society as well. But, like with police brutality, that's been happening for years now. If you look at sort of Selma, the March of Martin Luther King, I think that march and that sort of time of society really exposed the officers for being racist as well. Well, sort of like entrenched racism within the police force. But I think since that time up until now, there has been a continuous sort of pattern in the sort of people that are subject to police brutality, which is most commonly either black men or black women. And the death and the murder of George Floyd really just emphasised that, and then sparked this sort of international revolution against racism and police brutality. I think that's what it really did.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for that. It is appreciated. So, going back to the point a minute ago, why do you not think it was any of the others who was killed before him? So we all know the names. There's that hashtag say their name.
Yeah.
There's so many more cases that are being resurfaced now because of George Floyd and because of the BLM movement. Why wasn't it their name that we was rioting in the streets for?
I think it all has to do with timing as well. But I feel like at that time, although it was very important and although it was something that needed to be discussed then, I feel as now, because obviously we're in lockdown, we're in pandemic, people really haven't got much else to focus on. And I feel like this gave people the time to truly reflect and to like really look within themselves and look within the system to see the disparity between race and how people are treated. I feel like that's why George Floyd's death was really the sort of trigger for such a international and global movement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can definitely agree. I mean, people can use the excuse, I don't have time, it's not my issue. But right now you have time.
Definitely.
Everybody is forced to see it every time they go on social media. Everybody reposting it is just kind of putting it in your face. It's kind of showing someone the same poster over and over and over and over again. Eventually, you're going to have to do some research of your own and form your own opinion. Yeah. I can definitely agree with that. As we know, Breonna Taylor, like I said, Trayvon Martin, there's many other names that have started before that, and their case is equally as important as George Floyd's, or if not more so. But it's just been a build-up, a gradual build-up that has now rocketed off the scales.
People are tired. People have had enough of being justices and sort of the disregard for life. This isn't just a black issue. This is a human issue. It's about respect for life and for people's. And when it comes to law, you're innocent until proven guilty. The way he was treated was like he was guilty already, and that wasn't proven yet. They were arresting him on suspicion of something, not because he did something. It was all up in the air at that point. But they took it into their own hands to deal with him in such a gruesome way. Mm-hmm. I think that's why that's the issue. with most of these situations is that the police officers take it into their own hands. Rather than enforcing the law, they sort of feel as though they're above the law, and they can like sort of manipulate things to work into their favour, which isn't the case. That isn't their job. So I think that's what people are really trying to put out there and really trying to invoke.
Yeah, definitely. Where do you think this all started? I mean, we've seen as the Black Panthers, we've seen Martin Luther King, we've seen endless Black Lives Matter campaigns. This is seemingly another one in the saga, but this one, it seems to hit home a little bit more than the past does. I mean, we can all read about what has happened in the past about the slave trade, as terrible as it was, the Black Panthers, like I said, Martin Luther King. There's many of us to go by, but this one is kind of hitting home for our generation. Where do you think this all started and it all stems from?
Well, I feel it's like the hashtag of BLM, and I like sort of like justice for George Floyd and justice for Mohammed and all that. I feel like it's easy for everyone to sort of like have access to, whereas like, you know, the Black Panthers and the marches with Martin Luther King, those were really like sort of word of mouth. Like, you needed to know someone to actually get into those sort of organisations. Whereas with the hashtag, anyone can use a hashtag, so it's more reachable and more accessible for people to sort of jump on and to sort of get involved with.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, yeah, I can definitely agree with that. So, do you think that the new age of social media has kind of influenced that?
Definitely, yeah. I think it's a good thing and also a bad thing as well. The good thing in the sense that it gives people a chance to really educate themselves and to get involved with this sort of movement. But I think it's a bad thing in the sense that with the whole Blackout Tuesday thing, although it was a nice gesture to people to say that they're in support of the movement, I feel as though it was counterproductive, because now if you look on the hashtag, it's just filled with black screens. No one can actually look and find information that they actually want to look for, because it's just riddled with black screens, which is really and truly, it's not really helpful. It doesn't really give people the knowledge that they're seeking for, which is literally now just being covered with black screens.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. No, I actually had that idea myself, and I did take part in it, but I kind of, first of all, I sat back and questioned myself, because the first thing I did when I woke up in the morning was scroll through Instagram, as I'm sure we all do. And what I was seeing was black squares, hashtag Blackout Tuesday, hashtag Black Lives Matter, hashtag say their name. So I was doing a bit of research into why are we doing black squares, because it's all new to me. I woke up and my Instagram, I thought it was broken, to be quite honest with you. So I did a bit of research into it, and I couldn't really see a reason why we were doing it. So then I started to form my own opinion, and the opinion that I came to was just to show solidarity, just to make sure that people are seeing it. Anyone who's not taking part of it will know somebody that has posted it. So I think that's kind of the reason why I posted it, just to show that we are part of this. It's a real thing, and it's on your timeline. It's basically in your face. Mm-hmm. What is your opinion on that?
Well, I posted it as well, like an hour or so that. Then I realised, no, Deborah, this really isn't helping anybody. So I took it down, posted another post instead, and wrote something underneath the post. I felt as though, like, by me doing that, I'm still taking part in this whole movement, but I'm also actively educating people on the matters that we're actually arguing for, which is that Black Lives Matter as well. So I think that's what I chose to do instead. But I do appreciate that people are trying to help by posting these about me. It's really lovely and I really appreciate it. But I feel as though if like people just post that and think, okay, I've done my bit now, that's me done, I've helped out, that's it. But it's a continuous thing. It isn't just you post one day and you leave it the next day. It is a movement. It's constantly moving. It's not something that you do one day and leave the next. You have to be on top of it at all times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not a trend. I mean, it's not something that we want to go away anytime soon. It's not to do to fit in. It's something that you genuinely have to form your own opinion about. And if you're not for it, great, fine, that's okay. Just leave me alone. You know what I mean? Just do your thing, form your own opinion. There's really no pressure to conform. We don't want conformity. We want realization. We want ideologies, and we want people that know what they're doing and know why they're doing it.
Yeah.
But where do you think it will end? I think, what change do people want?
Well, if it was up to me, and if I was in control of all this, I'd call for a complete and utter constitutional reform, because the constitution that is both in America and in the UK was written by slave owners, imperialists, people that really didn't make the laws for people like me and you. The laws that were made weren't for people of colour. They were made for people at the time that could vote. At the time that constitution was written, I think it was even the 15th or 16th century, only men and landowners could vote. Women couldn't vote. People of colour couldn't vote. So it's like, how do you expect to live in a civilised and equal society when the laws weren't made for people to be civilised or equal? So I feel like that's when it'll stop. We have a complete constitutional reform that adheres to everyone's needs, or the majority's needs, and respects everyone regardless of race, sexuality, or any sort of difference that people may have.
Yeah, so the laws are outdated, aren't they?
Yes, very outdated.
Yeah, I can understand that. Definitely, as thinking from a financial and like a government economic standpoint, and I can't see America or England or any country really taking that in, because all the businesses that we own, all the governments that are in every country are all based on them rules that are already set.
Yeah.
So I don't.
You can still enforce those rules, but maybe bring in new legislation to make things equal. Because I've got like the hate crime legislation, and you have affirmative action in America, which are good, stepping stones. However, those laws aren't taken seriously because they aren't properly entrenched into the Constitution. They're just passive sort of like laws people sort of like can adhere to, and as well, it's hard to prove and it's hard to sort of act on those laws when they aren't really being taught within schools, within the police force. They're just there just to look good, pretty much. You need to properly enforce these laws for them to work.
Yeah, I definitely agree. How do you think this would end? I mean, how do you feel like we would get a complete reform? Because my personal opinion, as coming from my standpoint, is that the only way that this would end is when that like-minded people, like I said before, us as a community, are in positions of power. When people like us are on the other side of the court, they are the judges, we are the police officers, we are the teachers, we are the people in power. What is your opinion? When do you think it will end, and how?
I honestly think it's a generational thing. I think when our generation becomes older and we come into power, I hope that these events will shape their views on society, and that these views and what they experience will also reflect onto new legislations and new laws and new ways of thinking. But I feel as though this will end when I feel people stop ignoring these issues and stop counter-fighting all these like sort of movements saying all lives matter. Of course, all lives matter. No one ever said it that they didn't. But I feel like when people stop ignoring things and start making excuses up, that's when it will end. And I feel like in regards to the George Floyd protests, even though the officer that killed him has got second-degree murder, I don't think anyone will really rest until he's charged for first-degree murder, which can't happen because of double jeopardy in America. You can't be tried more than once for the same crime. It's either going to happen. But I feel as though until people feel satisfied with how the police treat people of colour and just anyone in general, this won't end. It will happen again. It might die down for a couple of years, but it will happen again and again and again. It happened in 1992 in LA. It will happen again in 2030 for all we know. It's just about making constant change and constant adjustments to people's needs.
Yeah, I can agree. I mean, looking back over the past few hundred years, there's been major change. There has been major change, but there is still a problem which can't be ignored. I mean, half a solution is not acceptable. We can't just settle for almost. We've done enough. We've not done enough. We need to. Exactly. We need to settle once. People are viewed as people rather than race. If we was all one, if we was all one color, I guarantee we'd have other issues apart from race. But as of right now, there are people around the world, all different races, all different nationalities, all different colors, and we just need to accept that. To put it plain and simple, as no matter how we've been fed by the media, what people have told us, we're all people. We all bleed red. We all have the same bone structure. I mean, we're all the same people. But
Yeah.
it seems so simple put into words like that, but then it's not that out in the real world. It's not as perfect. We don't live in a perfect world.
Exactly. And it's not even an issue anymore of just white versus black, or it being you're white and black. It's even like within like sort of black society, in black communities with like colorism, you know, people that are light skinned tend to get treated better, or tend to be more attractive, or tend to be more admired than darker skinned people, men or women. And I feel like now it's so much more ambiguous now. Racism is everywhere. It's within our community. It's against other communities. You have people of colour that are racist towards other people of colour, like you see in China, people there are racist, becoming racist towards people that are African. It's coming from all angles at this point, and I feel as though people really just need to take a look within themselves and understand that you don't need to be better than someone else to feel worthy within yourself as well. I feel like a lot of it comes from insecurity and a need to be better than somebody else, which is quite sad.
Yeah, I can. Yeah. What's your opinion on the riots in America? I mean, obviously we've had peaceful protests. What's your opinion on rioting?
See, I'm quite torn because although I think the riots are counterproductive, because now the attention is being taken away from the actual meaning of the riot, which is, you know, to protest for change peacefully. It's being drawn towards looting, people stealing like TVs and stuff, and like cheesecakes, which is just ridiculous. Like, why are you doing that? But I feel as though like there's major sort of movements like within society, like suffragettes. They blew up post offices, they vandalised shops, they fought officers, and they got change. They got rights for women. You have the Stonewall riots. People vandalised, they blew up things, they got change. Days after Martin Luther King died, people rioted for 6 days. They looted. Then civil rights amendments came in. So I feel as though, although it's sad, within the history of mankind, violence does speak louder than words, and it does get things done a lot quicker. Although I don't agree with violence, I'm not a violent person. I'm not in any way condoning sort of violent behaviour. It does, going off like what's happened in the past, it does get things done a lot quicker. So I mean, we can't really argue against that. Although it is really like, it's sad because you're seeing people that have started up their own businesses that are literally left now bankrupt because they can't afford to start up again and whatnot. But I think it is what it is, I suppose.
Definitely. I mean, like I said before, violence speaks a lot louder than words. And if people aren't being heard, what other way can you really get your message across?
Exactly. You can't really do anything else apart from, you know, show your frustration, which, you know, in a world, well, especially in American society where it's so, like, they're so pro-guns, pro-violent, that seems to be the only language they can understand. Because people were peacefully protesting all over America, and no one was listening to them or being told to shut up. You know, it was so easily dismissed. Now they're looting, now they're shooting back, now they're attacking officers. That's when people want to start changing what the officer was charged with, arresting the other people that were involved. That's when it all started. People started being violent. That's when they wanted to take actual sort of precautions and actual measurements to enforce justice and to enforce change. But what can you actually do?
Exactly that. I mean, it does kind of seem we're living in a time right now, something out of a film. I mean, something that you read about in a book where, because it is, in an essence, a revolution.
It is a serious revolution, yeah.
Shit's happening.
Quick, yeah. Very ridiculous. But, I mean, I do feel lucky in a way that I'm living through this because, I mean, this will go down in history for a long time. 2020 will never be a year to be forgotten. And I feel like, although this year's been very crazy, very hectic, it is going to be a year of progression. Things are changing really quickly. Like, new science is being discovered because of the whole pandemic. New laws are being forced because of the whole protests. Things are changing for the best, and things need to get really bad before they get really good again. And I feel like we're reaching a point now where we're slowly getting into the good and coming from the bad, if you know what I mean. If that makes sense.
Definitely. It definitely makes sense. Yeah, great. Perfect. That's where we're going to wrap it up. Hopefully you've learned a bit more. I know I have, as always on the path of knowledge, always trying to learn, always a student. So I greatly appreciate you coming on today and teaching myself and hopefully some people are watching a few things.
Yeah.
Before we go, really quickly, is there anything that you want to say, something that you feel strongly about, that you want to just give a message out there?
Other than the whole movement or to do with the movement?
Anything you'd like to say?
Well, if you're watching, just keep reading. Don't stop now because it's not a trend anymore. Keep on protesting, keep on signing petitions, keep on watching educational films or documentaries, and this fight won't ever stop until you stop. So you need to constantly be proactive. Yeah, and try and be peaceful if you're going to protest in Manchester. If you're going to one in Birmingham, don't loot, don't steal, just protest and keep safe.
Keep it simple. Perfect.
Yeah.
Great. I appreciate you coming on. It's been Deborah. It's been Talk with Quinn-Ty, and that is about the BLM movement. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.